Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive into my top 5 finesse soft plastic baits of the last year. We fished a lot last year. We got some great baits lined up for you. We're going to get some underwater footage going, but we're talking top 5 soft plastic finesse baits. Let's see you underwater. All right, guys, so when we're talking about finesse fishing, soft plastic fishing, we're talking about pressured water, clear water, water that's post-frontal, things that where the fishing has been really, really tough. And this year we fished a lot of those conditions. And there are baits that stood the test of time and shined. So we're going to talk about the baits that I love in every situation, the ways we rig them, and how we do that. So up first, your top #1 bait is the Zoom Finesse Worm, specifically this color right here. This green pumpkin red flake with the chartreuse tail on it right here. This is my go-to worm, right? Whether I'm throwing it on a Nico rig, hopping it on the bottom, or I'm throwing it on a drop shot, right? This bait absolutely shines. You can throw it on a Tokyo rig. You can throw it weightless. You can throw it on a shaky head. Whatever the situation is, you can throw this bait and it's going to deliver in the clutch. Now, the things I like about this bait, #1, the consistency of the bait is true. Almost every single one of these baits is consistent, true. You can also get them in the 20 packs for like $5. It makes it an affordable bait, and the versatility, right? When I throw this on a Nico rig, it really excels around docks, around structure and cover that you want to slow down and really fish this bait through there. If you're searching for fish, the drop shot and the Bubba Shot, this is the worm that I throw exclusively on that. This generate bites when nothing else will, right? This is my top lure for that category because of its versatility. On the shaky head, around rock, another great one, around docks, awesome, right? Unmatched versatility, always is producing no matter what water I'm fishing, but this is my #1 go-to right there, right? Also, you have its smaller brother, the 5-inch finesse worm. You're going to get a lot of bites with this. You're just not going to catch a lot of bigger fish. But if you're on a new body of water trying to learn where they're at, or on a really pressured body of water and you can't get other bites, the 5-inch version of this looks fantastic. I almost prefer the 5-inch version of it on the shaky head, right? The shaky head worm with the 5-inch version of this Zoom Finesse Worm is a killer, right? It's a straight up killer early in the spring when a lot of guys are throwing your Ned rigs, your things like that. Throwing a little bit bigger of a profile is going to generate a lot of bites. In the heat of the summer, you can throw this worm and straight up catch them. I also like to throw it on a drop shot nose hooked. It does a good job coming through there and is really going to catch them for you, right? Coming in at #2 bait that I trusted the most, not a shock if you watch the channel, the Megabass Dark Sleeper, right? Specifically the 3/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce version. This bait, whether you're fishing deep structure for smallmouth, whether you're fishing docks for largemouth, deep weed lines, veins of rock out there in 30 feet of water, this bait straight up delivers. Now, there are a bunch of baits that imitate the master, but as far as I'm concerned, this year, the Dark Sleeper was the ticket. I remember days going out and throwing nothing but the Dark Sleeper, pulling them out of shoreline cover, pulling them out of docks, and I would go to a different lake, you know, that same week, and I'd fish a deep structure because I had this tied on, and I'd stroke it out of those weed depths, and it would just get smoked too. If I took the boys out fishing, this is what I was tying on for them to fish. You cannot fish this wrong. I really like to throw this one off the bottom, stroke it up, and those fish will eat it on the fall, right? I'm looking forward, going, forward, looking at the Z-Man Gobius, looking at the other baits in this category, the Agent E, There's another one that slips my mind right now. There's the Savage Gear, Structure Gill, right? There's a lot of these swim baits because they get bit. They're like a jig. The big thing about this bait is that bottom displacement. And as you watch it on the underwater footage, you watch that bait come up and make a puff like a jig. It has the same effect as a jig, but it's going to generate a lot more bites because it's something that a lot of guys haven't been fishing. When you know on this bait, so that's why it's my number 2 spot finesse bait, right? Number 3 is an old classic that made a comeback into my arsenal this year with a vengeance. That is the tube, right? The tube has been a straight up killer for me in the fall and wintertime. I have caught a lot of good bass on it. I've generated a ton of bites, and I've generated some of the right bites, right? I got back into throwing that tube Texas rigged and throwing it weighted on a jig head. But really, you can't go wrong with a tube. Dragging a tube is going to get you bit on the most brutal days of fishing you can imagine. It's also going to get you bit in the hot and the cold, in the cloudy and the clear. Wherever you're going to throw a tube, you can throw a tube. Now, I really enjoyed throwing that Texas rig tube like you see here. I feel like Maxent Tube has made a big deal in my catch rates and numbers this year, and it's really generated a lot of the right bites for me. You can also throw that traditional. If you're not around a lot of grass, throw that traditional tube, right? Sand flats, big time traditional tube. Rock veins, throw that traditional tube. This is a killer. I learned to throw a tube on Lake Cumberland growing up. I brought it back into my game up north here around these grass lakes, and boy, let me tell you, it has paid off in spades. I've put a lot of nice fish in the boat lately on the tube, right? Number 3, rounding out kind of these baits right here, is the finesse swim bait. Now, I've thrown a lot of finesse swim baits. I picked up this one right here, which is the Okashira head with the literal best swim bait in this category, in my opinion, which is the Megabass Spark Shad. It's a keeled swim bait. It swims ultra great. It's great in clear water. It's great in pressured lakes, but I cannot tell you how many smallmouth and how many largemouth I have caught on this behind other guys throwing swim baits. There's just something about this combination that dials in the bites, right? The other swim bait, you know, they catch them, but this year, for whatever reason, that combination just put a lot of fish in the boat. We fished a lot of clear water scenarios. You know, your Lake Maxent Cookies, your Lake Tippecanoe was clear this year, so that Okashira head helped me put a lot more fish in the boat. Now, your next one is another versatile one like my first one. Number 4 right here on the list is the Berkeley Pit Boss in the 3.5 version. This bait will straight up light fish up in its versatility, right? I throw it in the spring on a jig. I throw it in the summer on a Tokyo rig flipping. I throw it on a Texas rig year round. This bait and this profile underwater is so versatile, it hurts, right? It is a fantastic way to literally bring bites to the table. Now, the way that I started fishing this bait that generated the most bites for me back in the day was on a unpegged Texas rig out there in the abyss, and I would throw it out there, let this bait fall down those weed lines and just smack fish. And then I moved into flipping it on the Tokyo rig, and then I moved into throwing it Nico style. Then I moved into throwing it on a jig head. Then I moved into throwing it Texas rig, pegged again up under docks. There's literally no wrong way you can fish this profile. This is one of probably my top 5 baits all time, but this year I kind of fell back in love with it. I'd gotten away from it, doing a lot of drop shotting, a lot of different things, out really deep, and this year I reincorporated this into my game, and it really did produce for me, right? It's a bait I got a lot of trust in. It's a straight up killer. That Berkeley Pit Boss, literally the 3.5 and 4-inch versions of it are killers. The 2-inch version of it is also fantastic. If you cut it down, it's literally just a bait that you cannot miss with, right? And then finally rounding out our list at like 5.2 here is another old classic that I always love. It is the fluke, right? Now, there are a ton of fluke baits out there. As hover strolling and mid strolling become more popular, the fluke has, you know, found kind of a renaissance. But if you throw this bait Texas rigged weightless around shallow vegetation in the spring, you are going to catch numbers of bass, right? Every year I have a sucker shot or a pattern that I can run on local lakes and straight up catch them when other guys are really struggling or fishing power techniques and not catching them. Fishing this Texas rigged or straight up nose hooked on a VMC hook around docks is one of my favorite ways to catch them when they're sunning up there. They're warming up in the spring. They're not wanting to eat much. You flip a jig in there, they're not going to eat it. You flip this in there and twitch, twitch, twitch in their face. Boom, it's going to get smoked, right? That's one of my favorite ways to catch them in the spring. Matter of fact, we're about a month and a half away from that pattern right now. I'm feeling it. Ice is coming off this week, I think. We're up in the 50s. Here next week, which is a weird kind of spring, but then as soon as that channel water starts to hit 48, 49 degrees, those fish are going to come in there in droves, and the spook won't catch them. The jerkbait won't catch them. They're looking up, they're feeding up, but guess what will? The fluke, right? And the fluke is a straight up killer. That's why it's like 5.5 or 6, right? So guys, hope you enjoyed today. Hope you enjoyed going underwater, looking at all those baits. The channel is really growing right now. We need your input to help take the channel in the direction that you want it to go to, right? We want this channel to focus on things, focus on baits and techniques that even the average amateur angler can excel at fishing. We want you guys to be able to go out on the weekends for 2 hours and catch fish. We want you to go out in your tournaments and fish with confidence on the stuff that you're doing. We also want to, be a channel that's for the people, right? We want to help you guys learn how to catch bass, help you guys help you guys get out on the water with us. So leave us a comment, give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us out. Let us know what direction you want to see the channel go, right? We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. We got more ice fishing videos. We got more underwater coming back when the ice comes off. But hey, let us know what you want to see on the channel, and we'll see you out there, guys. Tight lines.